Greetings, brothers and sisters, and welcome back to The Frozen Chosen. I'm Nathan Wright,
I'm Caleb.
And I'm Joseph.
and we are still here to review The Chosen, episode by episode, from a confessional reformed perspective. We're still in season 2. We come to episode 4 this week, and it starts with a boy who falls from a tree and becomes crippled, and we watch him go through his whole life every day, and it's a masterful opening scene. There's no dialogue. It's just pure cinema, and then it eventually is revealed that he's the guy waiting by the pool of Bethesda. Meanwhile, his brother, who in the show is Simon the Zealot, it's fictional, he's training for violence. And so these two stories are happening in parallel, and then the opening stops right when they are at the point in life where the story is ready to begin, when Jesus is ready to enter their lives. So I hope we could all take a moment to appreciate some peak opening content.
Yes.
And then we get opening credits, and then Simon the Zealot enters Jerusalem, saying that it's for the feast, but he accidentally tips off a Roman that he's lying. He's, in fact, not there for the feast. Mm-hmm. And so then we get this kind of cat and mouse spy thing going on for the rest of the episodes. Pretty cool. Mm-hmm. It's like a James Bond in Jerusalem, but the clean version.
You remember recently I complained that they went into Samaria. And
Turned
right back around.
You remember.
Yeah. So, turns out they actually were going to Jerusalem. They just went south and then way north and then way south again. It's I'm still confused.
I wonder if they confuse Caesarea Philippi with regular Caesarea, which still doesn't make perfect sense, but it makes a lot more sense.
Okay. I don't remember off the top of my head where Caesarea is.
It's like west of Sychar, a little bit northwest.
Okay. Perhaps. The other part of me wonders if they somehow just wrote the story out of order.
Yeah, that is maybe
one
more.
As one does, yes. But
It's non-linear storytelling.
I appreciated, obviously, they're using the Feast of Booths as the setting for this drama between Simon the Zealot and his brother. But also just as a way to showcase that part of Hebrew religion. I think it's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
We see Jesus and the disciples preparing a tent for the celebration of this feast. They explain that, this is one of the 3 times of year that all the Jewish males have to go up to Jerusalem. Good stuff. This is... You like to see it.
I would have loved to watch more of them setting up for the Feast of Booths. That was cool. Mm-hmm. It ended too soon.
Yeah. Was that like a normal sized booth? That was really big.
What do you think? Well, they had to eat.
Yeah. You can eat in a smaller booth.
Yeah, but I think you're picturing a telephone booth, and you're just assuming that a booth could never be bigger than that.
I don't mean
But
like
a booth back then, and what we typically would call a booth now, even like at a restaurant.
I don't think...
Obviously, I'm talking down to you for fun, but
Yeah, you like doing that.
I don't think
so
any
this
of
seems
us
like a weird...
are in the best position to know, without having researched it, what was the average size of a booth for the Feast of Booths in Second Temple Judaism. I don't
need to listen to a history buff and a carpentry buff talk about this, because I feel like you guys could just fill up the episodes with, they got the measurements wrong.
If we had enough knowledge to say that, we would.
We
don't.
Bigger fish to fry.
Okay, let's fry them.
Well, Peter tells Jesus that Shmuel is preaching against him. Shmuel, if you remember, is a Pharisee who's at odds with Nicodemus, because Nicodemus is open to Jesus, and Shmuel is like, no, he's a false teacher. So Shmuel is getting a lot more militant against Jesus, and he's taking to the streets and publicly preaching out against him. So I see...
Although not by name.
That is true.
In what we've seen, Shmuel doesn't name Jesus. He just says, some people are going to come to the feast and make it about themselves and teach heresies. Wink, wink.
Right. Almost like it is about Jesus. Yeah. Almost like he's the fulfillment of all this. Yeah. I can't even imagine what the the Pharisee world would have looked like when the young men got a hold of it.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness. Lord have mercy.
Are you referencing anything in particular?
Yes, I'm referencing the fact that when young men get a hold of teachings that they know they can leverage to make themselves look holy and lord over everyone else, that usually goes in a very bad direction. Young men are unsuited for positions like that, generally. Generalizing the way Paul generalized about Cretans on Crete, young men taking quick positions of authority, especially ones that have to do with keeping others in line, does not go in a good direction. There are
Good
exceptions
thing
like
we're here then to keep the show in line.
well, we are not exercising authority. We are giving input.
That's a good point.
I'm specifically talking about authority, and of course there are exceptions such as Timothy. I'm not saying young men are unqualified, but I can't help but notice that Nicodemus is the older, wiser Pharisee who is looking at the law he teaches the way it was meant to be looked at. And Shmuel is going to rise up and tell him, from his ripe age of 20 or something.
He's definitely older than 20.
However old he is, he's much younger than Nicodemus. And so now he's trying to do what he thinks Nicodemus should do, which is very aggressively condemn Jesus.
Mm-hmm. What I also appreciate about Shmuel's characterization is that certainly in the way that he starts out, he's sincere.
Yeah.
He is kind of playing the power game somewhat. And he wants to be the guy who has the audience and is a successor to Nicodemus. We learned this from last season, not so much this particular episode. But he also sincerely believes that somebody like Jesus is heretical and should be, you should warn people against him. So if Shmuel's rise continues in the way that he wants it to, it'll be interesting to see how much that sincerity gives way to just pure ambition and
Well, it's interesting. He hasn't really done anything hypocritical yet either. Because a lot of the times we think of the Pharisees as people living double lives. And Jesus called this out all the time. Their murder of the heart, their adultery of the heart. They wash their hands up to their elbows, but they're passing roving eyes at their neighbors' wives. We're not getting that from Shmuel. I assume we'll get that at some point in the show, but Shmuel is just not that character. So I guess we'll see where things go with him. But we've gone very far down this rabbit trail, and I'm sure our audience is just dying to know what happens next. So Simon and Jesse have a very moving discourse.
Jesse is the paralytic.
I don't think we mentioned his name.
Yeah, they gave him a name.
And this is still Simon the Zealot, of course.
Right. So Simon the Zealot and his brother Jesse the paralytic have. Thank you guys. This is much clearer now. They have a very moving conversation because they have not seen each other in years, and they both have certain ideas about what the other one is doing wrong. Very understandably so. Just like we do all the time. So.
And I appreciate the way that they enhance the drama of this through giving us something of a meditation on Zechariah. Different messianic prophecies that have both to do with the military victories of the Messiah over his enemies, but then also his compassion and his healing of those who are suffering from various diseases. Even right in the opening scenes of the episode, the ones that we were praising, I kind of felt this way and that was before they had even got into Zechariah or any kind of prophecy. There was just a real contrast between what kind of Messiah are we looking for? Are we looking for the servant and the healer, or are we looking for the king who's going to break everybody's teeth in? Of course, we get both. Just we understand, now that Jesus has come, we understand the order of things in a way that these people didn't. And so their debate about what they should do and about what the Messiah will do is a legitimate debate. I like to.
Yeah. So then Jesus talks to Jesse the paralytic and convinces him to turn his eyes away from the pool and to to put his eyes on him, Jesus. He says the pool has nothing for him, which this is where I have a question. Okay. Is the show implying deniability that the pool actually had healing power? Because there are people in the show saying, oh, it's just some natural phenomenon. It doesn't really heal. You know that, right? Things like that. And the show never actually shows anyone being healed by it. Shows everybody scrambling and jumping and flopping over each other to get into it, but it never actually shows anyone being healed. Now, scripture says an angel stirred the water, and the first person in was healed.
Does it?
What translation did you use, Nathan?
This is a matter of textual variance.
Okay.
Let's just
Go ahead and pull it up.
read a couple translations. This is from the KJV.
Oh, he's all prepared. He's got like a dozen Bibles down there.
Yep. All right.
And for the record, what I'm going off of, honestly, is when I was a kid, the way I heard it. I was just reading Psalm 19 tonight, and it was NKJV, but I was still saying the words that I memorized as a kid, which probably NIV. I don't quite remember, but
Probably ESV.
this is probably a case of that.
All right. Here we go.
What chapter? Just tell us the whole thing.
John 5, the Gospel of John, chapter 5, verse 3. KJV. In these lay a great multitude of impotent folk, of blind, halt, withered, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain season into the pool, and troubled the water. Whosoever then first, after the troubling of the water, stepped in, was made whole of whatsoever disease he had. And a certain man was there, which, etc., etc.
So that one says trouble.
Yes, he troubled the waters.
Also, I said Bethsaida. It's Bethesda, so sorry about that.
All right. Bethesda is what we're going with. NRSV. Now, in Jerusalem by the sheep gate, there's a pool, called in Hebrew Beth Zapha, which has 5 porticos. I'm kind of troubling the waters here, but I don't know where they get all these different pronunciations. It's there. Let's move on. In these lay many ill, blind, lame, and paralyzed people. One man was there who had been ill for 38 years, etc., etc. So, in the KJV, there's like a verse and a half extra, which is not in the NRSV. I think the ESV and NASB probably, NIV follow that tradition. KJV and NKJV both have the extra material.
Okay, so you're questioning whether it's in the original text.
Yes.
Okay, because if your issue is just with stirred versus troubled, then you're just nitpicking.
I'm not that picky.
Okay.
2 of our oldest manuscripts are Codex Sinaiticus and Codex Vaticanus. Neither of them include the extra bits. A lot of our other manuscripts do, the majority. So there's kind of a debate between older versus more. Caleb, do you have any? I know you're the history guy, so.
That's accurate. It's. Do you prefer the old ones or do you prefer the most ones? Good Christians go different ways on that. But you get into when you're.
What way do better Christians go?
Okay, I tend to prefer the old ones,
I do as well.
and this means that I'm more inclined to disagree with these extra verses and believe that they aren't original. But maybe they were original. Well, and this is what I was going to say. There's so many different possibilities about how the verse got in there. Is it possible that John published multiple editions of the Gospel of John?
Well, sure. I hadn't even thought of that.
Most people don't think about it. I don't think it's likely, but it's a possibility. So maybe the extra verses in chapter 8, maybe maybe these were things he added himself under just the same inspiration as the first parts.
What if it was under not the same inspiration?
I don't think this is likely. In a lot of cases, small cases like this, it seems plausible that the extra content was originally not there, but somebody's notes, in our Bibles, a lot of times we have footnotes that help explain something. Somebody wrote a study Bible, and then at some point, one of the notes accidentally got inserted. So if the note for this passage was, well, the reason this pool healed people is because an angel went down and stirred the water, makes sense how that could get inserted in. It was somebody's explanation for something in the story that was unclear, So then is it inspired?
We don't know.
And not only do we not know whether it's original, whether it's inspired, we also don't know if it's true.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of ambiguity that the show is wrestling with and trying to be pretty respectful toward.
It seemed rather antagonistic to me, calling it like a pagan pool dedicated to these Greco-Roman gods.
But at the same time, not outright denying that it might have had an actual angel of God turning this pagan place into a place where actual healings are performed.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Christ owns everything. Christ has dominion of pagan temples, so. And it would have, if that's true, which I'm not saying it is, but if it's true, that would have been an awesome display of the power of God to see this pagan temple, this pagan place of worship of fake false gods who can't do anything, and God puts his actual power there, showing how much stronger he is than these idols. I'm just saying if it's true. I'm not saying that it is.
One thing we know about this guy is he's been here 38 years.
Oh yeah.
You would think that if nobody got healed there, he would probably just leave after 38 years.
I suppose. But even in the various conversations that we see him have, both with his brother and then with Jesus, we kind of get the idea that, like, he is deceiving himself. Or he's clinging on to hope, which is irrational, and he kind of knows it. Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, I think so.
So,
I mean, if your legs don't work, you're not going to be able to get to the pool very fast anyway, which is what we see in...
He should have just slept on the side of the pool with one arm in. Like, am I the only person who thinks of this stuff?
Whoa, you should go back in time and tell him that. It would be totally life-changing.
If I were Jesse.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I think what the show is trying to do with this conversation with Jesus is, lean into the fact that all the things we're taught to do don't save us. Even if they are true, we can love our neighbor and we can go to church, good things, but they won't save us. Jesus has to save us. And yay, great message, but maybe not the point here. In that, yes, if he had gone into the water, he would have been healed, because he could not get to the water. Jesus healed him. And I could break that down and say, well, that's an illustration of how we're dead in our sins and trespasses. But then, that analogy hits a dead end when you see the fact that he believed. He was trying to get there. He desired to get there. He just couldn't get there. So I think what I'm trying to say in the fewest possible words is I don't think that we need to necessarily read into this miracle as some kind of play-by-play analogy for salvation. It's just Christ exalting his Father by showing the power that God has to do what we cannot. It's very simple.
Yeah.
That's my take.
and I think it's nice that the show tries to give it some theological weight, like you're saying, where there is the implication that, more than just the implication. Jesus says to him, you don't need this pool, you need me.
Yeah.
Whatever exactly that means in terms of his ability to go to the pool or the ability of the pool to heal him, the point we're all agreeing on that is both a theological and just simply a practical point is you need Jesus.
Yeah. So the takeaway here is that if you're wasting your whole life at the pool, you need Jesus.
Indeed.
I don't think I've ever felt genuine spiritual edification from any of these episodes before, but the parts specifically about Jesse struggling with his faith did that for me in this episode. But Jesus was mostly left out of it, and it brought a biblical character to life, and the biblical adaptation to TV aside, it was just an edifying story about a man struggling with his faith. I gotta give credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
So, And then the the way the episode wraps up with Simon the Zealot.
Yep. So, as we discussed, he's not really here in Jerusalem for his brother. That's incidental. He's on a assassination mission for the Zealots.
Right.
Will he succeed? Does he pull it off? How does he end up? If he's an assassin, how does he end up becoming a disciple?
You'll have to tune in next week to find out.
But some of these questions are answered in this episode.
Yes, we see he's right there, pretty close to the Roman guy he's about to kill. All his guys are in place to create a distraction. And right when he's about to cut his throat, he sees his brother Jesse walking by, carrying his bed.
It's so good. It's really good.
Well, there needs to be. I mean, you guys all know, I assume, that Angel Studios was the original studio for The Chosen. Now, because because Angel Studios came from VidAngel, and because VidAngel is about filtering objectionable content for movies and TV shows, I think there should be a VidAngel filter that will just remove all the 2 CVs from The Chosen. You can filter out Jesus, and then, man, this episode would be so good.
Yeah.
Genuinely, like,
Because as a story about Simon and Jesse,
yeah,
it's great.
yeah.
Both for their faith struggles and their family relationship and even the assassination subplot. It's great.
I hope that no one listened. Like, some of the past few episodes of The Chosen have been a refreshing break from all the problems that we've seen throughout the rest of the show, and we are enjoying that while we can. So I hope no one hears this and thinks, well, it's worth it. I should just go watch it. I suppose if someone watches one episode to see the good things, no harm done initially, but then maybe they want to start watching more of it. And,
Well, here we are watching all of them. So
well, yeah, and I think that spiritually mature Christians, and we talked about this a little bit earlier. Like, is it okay when we do it? Us watching The Chosen and being young men. Well, we answer to our pastors, and so spiritually mature Christians under the right guidance should be able to watch this show and immediately see the problems.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily afraid of people being led astray if they watch it for the right reasons, because I think that they'll come to the right conclusions. And, if they want to keep watching or not is up to their conscience. What we're worried about, and the reason we're doing this, is because a lot of naive Christians dive into this show all excited to watch the gospel come to life on a screen, and they become spiritually dependent on it. So we are being honest when there's good, and storytelling wise, there's a lot of good in this episode, but we still stand by all of the other concerns that we've expressed in other episodes. So
A specific good. Again, bringing it back to this scene of the assassination attempt, which he doesn't actually make. It kind of wraps up, or at least begins to answer the question that I think was raised before about what should Jews do at their present time, and what will the Messiah do when he comes? Is he going to be the warrior king who's like totally cool with assassination and very anti-Roman and doing all that stuff? Or is he going to be the kind of Messiah who cares much more about taking care of your brother, healing diseases, and hope?
Yeah.
This is a choice that Simon ends up making. When he sees his brother go by healed, he immediately turns from the assassination attempt because he has this understanding that what he has seen is more important.
And one of the things we see in the beginning, sort of montage without dialogue, Simon has taken care of his brother for a long time.
That's true.
And then the Zealots get him, and he just abandons his brother for several years, at least, probably decades. And then he meets up once.
Yeah.
And then, well, there we go.
yeah. And then the only remaining point is when Shmuel freaks out because Jesus is carrying a bed on Shabbat.
Well, not Jesus, Jesse.
Jesse, that's correct. Well, yeah, Jesus healed on Shabbat. The Pharisees were constantly getting mad at him for that. Jesse picked up his bed and carried it per Jesus' instructions. And he kind of did a Han Solo thing. It's all a bunch of simple tricks and nonsense. His exact words were, he performs a magic trick and tells you to sin. And then Matthew asks Jesus why he performed the miracle on the Sabbath. And Jesus says, sometimes you got to stir up the water. All right, does that cover it?
I think so.
All right, thanks everybody for watching. Please join us next week for episode 5 of season 2. And until then, grace and peace.